Do you have any beers on standby?
Of course.
Perfect.
Yeah, I figured I had to, right?
Yes. Okay.
That's awesome.
I didn't know if I should be wearing like this type of jacket or a leaf jacket because you guys are
buddy,
you guys are all
everything.
Oh
You
man.
can do the full share. Several costumes.
Okay, all right. Well, welcome to the 7th episode of Bushbanter, and I'll have you people know that this is probably one that this entire crew and probably all of Leafs Nation is looking forward to. But with that being said, I'll just introduce the boys, and we'll get to our special guest shortly. Cameron Hagereen, are you in the house?
I'm here.
Yes, guy. Ramon Natali, are you in the building?
I am here, gentlemen.
Guy. And my bro, Big L, in the cut. Are you here?
I'm here, and I ain't cut yet, but I will be soon.
Yes. And to our special guest, again, this is a big honor for the Bush. North Bay's finest. This man's a 24-year vet. Would be approaching the quarter-century club this year, provided we have a season. Second all-time hits in the IBL, first in our hearts. This guy's a 3-time champ with your Toronto Maple Leafs. He's also the hardest working off-season operations manager for the Christie Pits. Tending to that second base when it pops out. If home plate gets wild, he'll deal with it. The son of Papa Tops, top of the world, our boy, Topolie. I think you know him, Mr. Damon Topolie. Are you in the building?
I am here, fellas.
Excellent.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, I gotta represent, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for actually joining us today and finally getting to meet in person, not on the field, not yelling from the bushes.
Exactly. And I'm of course GL, and yes, drinking that bush. Awesome. All right. So Tops, good to have you here, obviously. But why don't we sort of dive back in? So you're from North Bay. Why don't you take us through, kind of where you grew up, how you grew up loving the game, and, from there, where you transitioned to and how you ended up with the IBL.
Yep. Yeah. So born and raised in North Bay, Ontario. Played, all the sports, hockey, basketball, baseball. My dad was a high school teacher up there, so I was basically a gym rat. I never thought I'd be pursuing baseball. I thought I'd be a football player in university, like at Waterloo or Laurier, something like that. Never baseball was sort of the last sport that I did really well at in high school. And then somebody asked me if I would be interested in playing down in the States. And that's sort of how it started, baseball wise. It was about 17, 16 years old. They're like, you're pretty good for a guy from North Bay. So that's when I started to realize I must be pretty good, and some opportunities with scholarships and so forth. I went to a junior college in Muscatine, Iowa, called Muscatine Community College. They don't even have a baseball team anymore, but they were one of the better JUCOs in the country at the time. So that's where I ended up going from high school, and I needed somewhere to play in the summer. And we knew the owner of the sports store in Hamilton, who owned the Hamilton Cardinals at the time. And they were just going to wood bat in the IBL. So it had been aluminum bat. So you can imagine all these guys hitting.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is 1995. So they decided, because these games were going 18, 16, 20 to 18, especially at Christie Pits. Like, it's ridiculous, right?
How far did Cleveland Brownlee hit it with the aluminum?
Yeah, could you imagine? Yeah. So it was a little ridiculous. So they decided they were going to go to wood bat. Yeah. And I thought that's awesome, because my college coach wanted me to do a wood bat league in the States. So this would give me the opportunity to work and play baseball back at home for the summer.
Yeah.
So that's how it wasn't even called the IBL back then. They went by the Inter-County.
Right. The IC.
Yeah, the IC. They didn't even have the IBL. They didn't even have a logo yet. So, but it was a really good opportunity. We had the men's national team program was still heavily funded back then. So there was a lot of those guys playing, a lot of ex-pros. It was just a really good league. It was a lot of older guys. There wasn't as many college guys playing back then. Riley, I don't know if Riley mentioned that, but we were considered young punks in that league back then, because there was a lot of seniority in that league. Guys would literally ride the Pines for 2 or 3 years before they'd actually get a chance to play.
Holy
Wow.
It was really
shit.
old school, right? So
Wow.
to crack a lineup back then was really hard as a young guy. So I went and tried out for Hamilton. They said, come back in 2 days. I got a call from Stratford. They said, can you come to the park like tomorrow? Basically, when I got home from school, I went and tried out, and they're like, do you want to play junior and senior here? We got a house for you. It was like the movie Summer Catch.
Wow.
Okay. All
Wow.
right.
Like
Wow.
something like that, where like I could stay, work there, play ball every day. And that's sort of how I got introduced into the intercounty, and I ended up staying in Stratford for 3 years before, unfortunately, they ended up folding. And then that's
Right.
that's,
So
yeah.
so why don't I touch on that? Yeah, because I saw that you played on the Stratford Hillers. That's what they're called, correct?
Yes, they were.
So that was back in the IC
Yeah,
pre-IDL. All right.
Yep.
So that's actually interesting because I didn't know much about it. So was it the same number of teams, or like were they all Southwestern Ontario, or why don't you
Yeah, it was
expand on
more.
that a bit?
Yeah, so there was no Barrie. So
Okay.
there was
Thank
Kitchener,
God.
London, Hamilton, Brantford, Toronto. Trying to think if there's anybody else.
Stratford.
Yeah, Guelph, obviously. So it would have been a it would have 17 league, because my first year in the league there was actually a 4-way tie for first place.
No way.
Oh,
Had to play two. We had to
Quick
play.
question: Who
Yeah.
was the team in the basement if 4 teams were in first?
Oh, St. Thomas was in the league back then, so
That's
there wasn't even
odd.
number of teams. So
Yeah.
St. Thomas wasn't very good.
Oh, that's
So-
hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So we had to play 2 extra regular season games, kind of like they did last year.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the reason why those guys had to play last year, is because of this time in '95 where they had a 4-way tie for first, and we had to play 2 games, like a semifinal and a final game, just to decide who the pennant winner was.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah. So there's crazy, like that's why those, like, poor Barrie and Kitchener had to play that game to decide a pennant winner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
Didn't really mean anything.
Doesn't
Yeah.
apply to
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Though?
But
You know what, though?
back in the day,
Okay.
the pennant winner used to get a first round bye. First and second got a first. So
Oh.
that's why there was incentives to play those games. And that
Yeah.
Right,
it
right,
doesn't work that way anymore, right? So
Right.
right.
Sorry, Al, you were saying something?
I was gonna say, you know what? Poor Barry, poor Kitchener. Forget those guys. All right, they had success.
Yeah.
They've done well
I
enough.
give cheers to that. I'll give a Bush Life cheers to that. So 95 you started with Stratford then?
yes.
Okay, so 95 to 98 was Stratford. Then they folded.
Yep.
Okay, so how did you get introduced to Toronto then?
So the first year I played in the league, Jack Dominico, who is born and raised from North Bay,
No way.
asked me why I was playing for Stratford. And I said, because you never called me. So the next morning at 6 a.m. when the league announced that Stratford had folded, he called me in my dorm room down in Tennessee and
No
said,
way.
Stratford's out. I'm calling you now. Coming to Toronto.
Nice.
And then there you go.
Yeah, so
Did he
that's how I
shut
ended up in
Stratford?
Toronto. Yeah, he used to bug me all the time every time we played Toronto. Why aren't you playing for me? We're from North Bay. Hold on, guys. I got a guest appearance.
Oh, we got a Bush
Oh.
guest. We got a
He's-
Bush guest.
Yeah, he's right
Newest
here.
member of the Bushman.
He's got his hat. He's ready to go.
Oh, hello
Oh,
there.
I love it.
A second
This is
Hi,
little
generation.
Austin. Yeah, we got little Austin here.
hi,
What's up,
Austin.
Looking forward to-
Yeah.
That's amazing.
All right.
He just got up from a little nap.
Yeah, he's just waking up.
Fantastic.
So
Nice.
like before I go back to kind of like the history there, I do
Yeah.
want to ask you with Austin, is your dad Papa Tops always sending them? Like
Yeah, we got the wheels going already on him. Yeah, he's working on his leadoffs.
I love it. I love it. Okay, perfect. So would your first year then be 99 with the Leafs?
98.
98. Okay.
Yeah, so I played 95, 96, 97.
Yeah.
Those 3 summers, and then 98 was my first season with the Leafs.
They
perfect.
never
Yeah,
Wow.
looked away.
So looking back here, you guys had some early success with the Leafs. You won in 2 times within the next 3 years after
Yeah.
you started, after your rookie
Yeah,
year. So
we were
can you
always in
expand
the,
on
like
those
we were
years,
pretty
or-
much. Yeah, we were pretty much in the finals pretty much every year. Even when I was with Stratford, my first year in the league, we got to the finals and eventually lost to Toronto. We were up 3-1 in the series, and they came back and beat us 4 straight. They had a guy named John Duras that basically just shoved it against us. He was an ex-pro pitcher from the Pirates organization.
Cool.
But yeah, so like the winning, like lately, obviously we haven't been winning as much, but there's been a long-standing winning tradition in Toronto.
100%.
It's very frustrating to Jack to see us in the middle of the standings because we were never there. We
Yeah,
went
right.
3. I went 3 summers without losing a home game in Christie Pitts.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's crazy. I actually pulled up some deep dive
Yeah, take
PDF
it away,
stats
Ray.
on the
Take
league.
it away.
And we, 2002, I think you guys only lost 4 games.
Yeah.
And then 2003, I think it was only about 3 games.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
and then I think someone also led the league in doubles in 2002.
well, I was gonna bring because
Lord.
I know you guys were making fun of me for those 4 doubles last year, but I was gonna tell you about the time where I hit 15 doubles and led the league.
Oh, you
Tell us about those
saw
Warriors, Tops.
that.
We want to hear it. We want to hear it.
And that's with both Butler brothers on the team. So you
Wow.
tell me.
I want
Wow.
to. Okay, so I want to ask you about that. So, Tops, I noticed here. So, for everyone who doesn't know, 2 brothers, Rich and Rob Butler, who actually played. They played in the majors, right?
Yep.
They were up and down in the minor leagues, but both of them had some stints in the major leagues, and they came back. It looks staggeredly. Rich was 2001, 2002, and Rob was 02 to 07. And you played with both of them, both outfielders. So what was their game like?
Oh, it was unbelievable. It was like these guys are like literally. Rich had just come from Major League Baseball the summer before.
That's so crazy.
Like it's not right.
Yeah.
It's like
Right, yeah.
it's that video game where you got them on like super special mode, right? So and we even had guys like Spaljarek was on our team, so we had 3 ex big leaguers on our team. So when we go into other teams' park, it just wasn't fair.
Right.
Like, nobody. It wasn't fun, right, for the other teams.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what we're trying to bring back, right? We need to get back there.
Oh yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Right.
But I mean, the Leafs have had their fair share the last couple seasons of guys who at least pitched in either high minors or had sniffs of the majors.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to bring back, because that's how I've always been in the league. Is we've had some high talent players in this league, and Canadians like Chris LaRue. To come back, he started playing in the league when he was 18, and then he knows the league. Marcus Connect played in the league when he was 18, so they go and play pro ball and come back. Mikey Reeves was the same way, so they have an understanding of the league. Sometimes it's hard to convince these kids who didn't understand what it was in high school to come back and play after their pro career. They don't understand the caliber of ball.
Yeah.
So having a LaRue as a spokesperson and you see him on your roster, then it makes it a lot easier. Like it took me 2 years to convince Dustin Richardson to play in the league. Like that's an ex-big leaguer too.
What a get! What a get!
Is he coming back?
Well, he's here right now, so he can't technically cross the border right now. His wife's Canadian, so we might have. That's what you guys don't hear a lot of banter about us in the off season, right?
I like it though.
Yeah, we try to keep it close to the vest a little bit, right?
I like. Well, that's actually a good point, and I wanted to bring it up with you, Top. So. We've noticed, some great gets, and I'd say like pound for pound, like our lineup, especially going into this year, if we were to get it and we are able to potentially get Castaldo, like we have some heavy bats and a deep lineup.
Oh yeah.
And when we're speaking with Riley, and even with Tebow, you mentioned like a lot of it has to do with your recruiting at a grassroots level. So do you feel that, your relationship being the catching instructor with the Ontario Blue Jays has helped you in terms of procuring a lot of talent for at least the GTA-based players?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. That's totally it. A lot of people don't know Chris LaRue was a catcher. So I coached him from 16 to 18. I was his catching coach. So I guess I'm a really crappy catching coach because the other one is Jordan Romano. They're both big league pitchers.
Yo, shout out Jordan Romano. He follows the Bushman. We respect.
Oh yeah, because that's what I mean. So I coach these guys when they're young, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds.
Right.
I obviously know I want them to pursue, D1 professional baseball. And when they're done on the back end of their careers, they're like, I had mentors when I first came in the league in 95. I had like Barry Petrochenko, Goslin, who played. These guys all played professional baseball or national team players. Those are the guys that helped me get through my college years and the inter-county early on to become a better baseball player, or play baseball like a pro. And that's what bringing a LaRue back. He's like a pitching coach on the pitching staff, telling these young guys, "Hey, this is what you should be doing." Yeah. And it's easy, and they're giving back to the game because somebody else gave it to them. It's just the way the game's played, right?
Well, I definitely think you can notice it with someone like Matty Kakatos. He, by the end of the season, was probably one of your most effective relief pitchers.
100%, and that was the whole idea of it. I knew he was a hard thrower, but that only gets you so far. You got to learn how to pitch a little bit. And that's what LaRue had to tell him. Like, listen, I don't throw like I used to anymore, but I get more outs now than I used to.
Yeah.
So that's just how baseball is played. You got to have a bit of both, right?
Now, can we
And
look
how about
back
some
a-
of the? Oh,
I just
sorry.
want to look back with LaRue there a little bit. Just we got to touch on how he got jobbed last year.
Oh my
Well,
God.
I don't want to bring that up because
Okay.
Let's not get a fine. Let's not get a fine for talks here.
the Phantom Bach was a Phantom Bach.
That was nonsense.
He never
On
moved.
third.
He never moved. Yeah. So
what-
we'll just let that one go.
All
We'll
right.
let it die.
all right.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
One other thing, Tops. Are you finding it easier to convince some of the young guys that the IBL is actually a really good league to come and play in the summer? Because, you know, some of our guys, Santos and Johnston, those guys, I'm sure you've watched them grow up too, but do you think that do you think we have a good state of Canadian baseball, and do you think it's good for these kids to come back and play with us in the summertime?
Well, yeah, and that was especially Ryan Johnson was the selling point, was come home. He needed to obviously put on some weight and lift. That's what his college played. Yeah, because he started every game at Bowling Green, right, as a freshman.
Yeah.
So he could have pretty much went to any collegiate league he wanted to. But the point of playing 60 games in 60 days in a summer collegiate league is not going to help.
Right.
And he faced better pitching in the IBL than he would in a collegiate league.
Right.
Same with Santos. Santos he's a late bloomer, and that's been sort of my pet project the last 2 or 3 years. He had to play with like a Noah Naylor in the Ontario Blue Jays system. So he's not going to get a lot of accolades with a guy like that, right?
Right.
So he's like, I want to be a first rounder. I'm like, well, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
So you sort of see him struggle in the outfield a little bit. That's a new position for him, right?
Right.
I'm
He
okay
started
with
as an infielder, right?
100%. Like he was a shortstop, but does he look like a shortstop? Not really, right?
Yeah.
So he's got to learn a new position because he's fast. He's going to be an outfielder. So I'm okay with them making some of those mistakes. I know it might cost us a game or two in the regular season, but look at how he grew leaps and bounds over that entire summer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Any word from Tak?
Well, that was one of the reasons why I ended up at first base last year is because, one, we lost Mikey Reeves. He got a good job out east.
Yep.
Right.
I was expecting Tak to come back at any minute, and then he re-injured himself. The plan was never for me to play 35 games.
Right.
You were a stalwart at first there.
I was just trying to hold it down.
Did he hurt himself in that? What we did see him for one game, I think, right?
It was an off-field injury. He was,
leave it at that, boys.
He was being a youthful teen.
Okay.
In his late teens.
All right.
You know what? I'll transition. I'll transition here, gents. So I want to flash back, and this is actually it must be a memorable part of your career being a coach here, and obviously a part of this team as a player as well. But last year, 2018, the Leafs had the first ever playoff no hitter in the playoffs with Zach Sloan and Deska. And I just want to know if you can kind of take us back to that game. Maybe what you saw that was working, and that's a pretty special moment. Like this league's been around for a long time.
Well, it's been around for 100 years, and to have a first playoff no hitter, like I didn't even know that. I didn't even know they were throwing a no hitter in the game. To be honest with you, I was so worried about winning that game. That's why I made the pitching change, because I saw Sloaner running out of gas, and we've been in a situation before late in the game where he gets tired and a pitch gets left up, and next thing you know, we're down 2-1. So that's why I made the change to a fresh arm. Any other regular season game, if a guy's got a no hitter, I'm letting him ride as long as he wants to go. I was more worried about winning that clinching game than anything else. And then I found out afterwards that it was a no-no. And but that's just being in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Well, the other side of that too was I can see how you didn't think it was a no hitter because of I think it was like 5 walks and 3 errors.
Yeah. So how many times did they have a runner on second with no hits?
Exactly.
Well, hats off to that. The other thing I wanted to touch on, which I noticed, and this was also in the playoffs of 2018, is you hadn't had a swipe in a decade. But yet in 2018, you snagged a bag in the playoffs. Do you remember that happening? And take us through that.
Well, it's more so being on the back end of a steal, right? So it's not. I wasn't the front end guy. I'm never the front end guy. Trust me, because I would never make it. Yeah, I was on the back
Terrible
end of
leadoff question.
Yeah.
All right. I should have
Yeah,
done better research.
No, it's okay. It's just still a stolen bag, right?
Yeah.
Well, the reason why I don't have a lot of stolen bags is there was a rule up until about the middle 2000s, maybe late 2000s, with
You
two
were too
outs.
fast.
No, there was a runner for the catcher with 2 outs.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
Ben Johnson actually tried out for us. He was going to
No
be the
sh-
runner for the catcher. No word of a lie.
No way.
No.
So with 2 outs,
way.
it was called the speed up rule because they have this in NAIA in college in the States.
Right.
Okay.
With 2 outs, the catcher, if he's on base, can come to the dugout and you can anybody else on the bench can run for him.
Ben Johnson steps
Yeah.
That would have been
into the
insane.
blocks.
He
But
cheated
so-
all
Let me
the
just
time.
take a
That
little
is-
something.
That has
Yeah.
got to be one of the hottest IVL hot takes ever. We could have had Ben Johnson in a Toronto Maple Leafs
But Ray,
jersey.
the best part about it is it's post him getting exposed for the doping. Like,
Oh, this is well after that. This is
Well
like 20
posed.
years after.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But he still flew though. That's
yeah.
That's great.
Oh wow! So that actually brings me to another point. So one of our favorites and your dad, Mr. Papa Tops, we are big fans because he is always sending the boys. And I thought I'd kind of let you in on something funny. Is that when we first started watching, like he's obviously been the third base guy forever. And we thought you and him were brothers, but we're up on the third base, so like we can't tell. And then we went on the road, dude. We went on the road to Brantford, and at the end of the game, he comes by. We're like, "Oh, what's up? Like, what's up, Pete?" Da da da. And then he leaves, and we're just like, "Oh, like Pete's looking like kind of a little bit like weathered or whatever." We find out that it was your dad, which at the end of the year at our gala thing, it's like, no. Like the Mara clan was like, we're like, oh, yo, like David and his bro Pete. They're like, dude, that's his dad. We're
Yeah.
like, oh, shit.
Yeah. He's in his early 70s, but yeah, he's got the good
we
quaff
love him.
going. He's got
Oh,
some
yeah.
good hair.
Oh, it's
great.
amazing.
That'll make his day if he hears this too. Right?
Oh,
That's
man,
that's
I hope-
perfect.
so good.
Well,
That's
we're
perfect.
gonna send a cheers out to
Yeah,
Pete.
yeah.
Send a
It's up to
cheers out
North
Pete.
Bay.
Papa
Yeah,
Tops,
all the way
one
up
of
there.
our favorites. Way up north.
Best part too is one of our friends when we were out in Hamilton. This girl, very very cute, gave him a hug, and I think that was the highlight of Pete's night.
Oh yeah, guaranteed it would be. Yeah. Yeah. They think he's
So-
one of the boys, right? So.
Oh yeah.
So,
Pete,
so
well,
what
Pete-
happens during the regular season there, Coach? Do you have to put up Dad in the basement for the regular season, or does he have a place down in the city?
Oh, he does have a place in the city, but
Okay.
those long nights that we come back at 3 a.m. from London,
Yeah.
he's usually on my couch.
Oh, nice.
nice. I wanted to sidetrack to another pretty funny story that I had marked down here for when we'd have you on. And that's I believe this was on the road, and I believe it was also 2018 keeps coming up, but I believe it was in Burlington. And it was an infamous play down first base. You were playing first base. I'm not sure if you were, I think we were losing. And you laid out the old Topolie hip check on this guy. He sprung up and he took a look at you, Tops, and he just stopped. So I wanted to know what was going on in that play. Like you're not going to get fined, statute limitations, but that was hilarious from our standpoint, and that fully endeared us to you because we're like, this guy brings it every day.
Oh.
Hello?
Did we lose him?
Oh,
No,
no.
no. For the
No.
best story.
Oh, for the best story. We got a raise.
Yeah,
the
hold on.
idea-
There's a little
Oh, we
delay.
got
Oh,
him back.
there
We
we
got
are.
him back. All right. So we lost you. So can you take us back to,
Yeah.
do you remember that play?
Yeah, so so the ball was thrown up the line a little bit, and being a ex-catcher, you don't usually give up too much room. Your space, that's your space. That's what I teach the kids anyways. So I didn't really move a lot when I came back down on the bag, and it was either going to be me or him, and he tried to run me over. And I don't think I moved too much, and I don't think he was a good size. He's a good
Big
size
boy.
guy. Yeah,
He's a
yeah.
big boy.
And since that time, I have seen him again because he was an ex-OBJ guy. So I've seen him at the facility, and we had a good laugh about that because I told him my shoulder still hurts,
Oh, no.
but I wasn't going to play it on that I hurt myself on that play, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
Man.
but yeah, it was just one of those collisions at first base that
Bad
That's awesome.
timing.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
another story we got courtesy of Coach Tebow.
Yes,
In
I was
the
about to
moment
go
where
there.
he blew through a red light charging home, and apparently you gave him the Olay and tagged him out instead of taking the charge.
Yeah, that's probably true.
But you got the out.
Yeah, that's what. Well, I've had. The thing is I've had my nose broken so many times on that play that I was probably at the tail end of my career, and I just decided that I wasn't going to take it this time. Or it could have been the year that I was getting married, and if I came home with a black eye or broken nose, that would have been big trouble, right? In the wedding photos.
The wife's
Yeah.
like, what? Were you playing Guelph and Tebow again? Let me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been awesome. I guess I had one more kind of quick touch on it. You know, like second time in hits in the IBL. Obviously, Riley, you're a plug. You know, the real man sitting here right in front of us. But how many years you think your time you got left in the tank? You think like you've been productive? Like we've been there watching. And what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely. Obviously, I think it's only going to be 1 or 2 more years. To be honest with you, it just depends. Like I said, I didn't expect to play that many games last year. I just try to chip in because I want these younger guys to get those at bats, right? So, but if there's that odd game when it's a Friday night in Hamilton and there's a lefty on the mound, I might pencil myself in.
I like it.
Well,
I like it.
I'm thinking we got to know because you kind of mentioned it before we started recording, but the breakdown with the Spelargic.
Yeah.
What happened?
So there's been a.
We got about 5 minutes tops.
Okay.
So
I'll run
through.
Story, I'll give you the short version.
I want to hear it.
So a lot of people they saw the TV version of it because it made Sportsnet, right? So that was Game 7 against Brantford. But that wasn't the first time. We call it the horse whisperer move, where he follows them around the bases.
Okay.
So he had done that to somebody else earlier in his career. So he doesn't like it, obviously, when you pimp a home run. Like that's today's day, guys pimp every home run. But that was a pretty big bomb. And there was a guy named Simon Galarraga. It was Andres Galarraga's cousin. They played for London.
Wow,
Yeah, he had a 5 head. He didn't have a 4 head. He had a massive head. He was a human bobblehead. But anyways, he pimped the home run at Christie Pitts, and this is the first time I saw that move, the horse whisperer. He chased him all the way around the inside, right to home plate.
Yeah.
And just obviously was asking him how he was doing, and there's first, there's second, there's third, there's home, just showing you the way.
Still good?
Yeah, he's just making sure he was doing okay to make sure he found his way. But and so as soon as Delfino hit it, and I looked at Spally,
it was gone.
I knew it was going to happen again. I'm like, it's going to be the horse whisperer again. And our shortstop at the time, Sean Travers, we both had seen this move before. So all we could do is just look. Like if you watch me, it's on Rogers.
Head down
immediately because I can't laugh in that moment. We're Game 7, man. Yeah. But I'm like, here we go again, horse whisperer. But yeah, but it's just one of those things in baseball. Like everybody got caught up in the moment and. Spally didn't want to get shown up, and no pitcher ever does, right?
No.
Yeah.
And you know what? Bush hat off to our boy Spalls. It's not like just following him to first, maybe you tail off at second. It's the commitment to the full lap.
Yeah, right.
And maybe walk him hand in hand right back into the dugout and go, you need some water here, fella? Like, I love it. Well, honestly, Tops, like I said, man, this has been a friggin' honor. Having you on, and fingers crossed, like I said, to see what happens if maybe there is even potentially a shortened season. We like I said, us here in Toronto, all across southwestern Ontario, like of the teams that have still shown an openness, obviously be so down to see you guys. And
well, yeah, we really we really appreciate you guys, because that's what you guys are. We worry about the Bushmen if they're going to make it to certain games or not. Like it's actually a locker room topic sometimes. Yeah, and that's it's a motivational tool for these guys. We got fans that want to see us play, so we do this for you guys, right?
That's
so
it.
Well, actually, Tops, before we go, I've got one quick question.
Yeah.
Is the Haas can't Taz chant the biggest meltdown you've seen by an opposing team pitcher in that
Oh,
wild
absolutely.
game?
Like you guys, that's what I mean. Like the sign with the fish for the jackfish when they first came to the park, like that.
Yeah.
Like I pissed myself laughing. I was like, that's brilliant, right? Like the apples for orchard, like it's like those are awesome. So like that's we really like it's hats off to you guys, right?
Man,
Oh, man.
no, for sure. That's awesome. But you know what? Like, we love it. Like, you guys play like great baseball. Like, give it 110%, like we said every time. And you know, we like being like a bit of an atmosphere and like trying to give you guys a bit of an edge, man. If we can chirp out a pitcher and make him melt down, and it helps you guys at all, like that means the world to us. And
No, it totally does, and that's what we love it. That's why we're like, okay, are they here today? We got to make sure they're here. Like, what do we got to get for you guys? We got to get you bus passes. Like, what do you guys need? You need a rental car? An Uber?
On that note, I want to give a shout out to Elliot, who works at O'Leaf, a great butcher in Toronto. I don't know if you know, Tops, but Elliot delivered sandwiches to the guys up in the bullpen.
Oh, I know. I hear. Yeah, I could tell because when they're not running to the clubhouse to kill spread, I know what they're doing.
They got better spread.
Yeah, they got better sandwiches.
Oh man,
And I'm
So
bringing that hot fire all day.
Yeah. Well, on that, guys, we're up against the clock here. We got to wrap it up. But Tops,
right.
man,
Appreciate it, fellas.
Family,
Thank you very
awesome.
much.
The rest of
I
the
hope
family,
to see you guys
Tops.
soon. All right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, brother.
It's just so crazy. We were trying to get our list together, trying to help out the team, and literally 3 days later, the entire world shut down.
Yeah, I know. That
But
happens.
you know what? There'll be light at the end of the tunnel, boys.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. All right.
Yeah, we will.
Have a good one, fellas.
Have a
For
good
sure.
one.
Thanks so much,
Tops.
Coach.
Yeah.